I came home to a clean house I didn't remember tidying and realized my friends had come over to help me while I dissociated. How much of my life have I spent not even recognizing love? Balancing my trauma and care feels surreal. Is isolation my peace or my prison? Leaving work on Friday, I felt completely useless, utterly exhausted, yet with nothing to show for it. However, at least I returned home to a tidy house and a joyful puppy. That was the one aspect I could hold on to as a victory. It felt like the only thing I had accomplished correctly all week. As I cried myself to sleep, gripping my poor dog, Walnut, and vaguely aware that somewhere beneath me a block of chocolate was melting into the sheets, a realization struck me. The truth is, I did not remember cleaning my house. Not yesterday. Not the day before. Certainly not even the week before. All I could recall was wishing all that chaos away. It could not have been me who did the dishes or put them away. I had no memory of taking out the piles of literal garbage from the stove or letting the dog outside. I did not remember scrubbing the puppy vomit off the carpet. I had been so dissociated that I had not even processed it all day. So I got out of bed and went to stare at the clean patch of rug, my mind struggling to catch up. I swear, I felt as if I had entered the twilight zone. It turns out my best friend and her partner had come over while I was at work. They did their nails, ate some food, played with the dog, and then they cleaned my house. No note, no you're welcomes. How much of my life have I spent completely dissociated, unmoored, and emotionally isolating myself to the point where I could not even recognize the physical evidence of someone else's quiet, loving care? It is a sobering thought that I do not even dare to begin unpacking. The human brain, though wild, isn't it? The way it assists in concealing our own pain from us, how it persuades us into believing this is normal. It distorts our problems just enough to give us the capacity to remain sociable. Consider how obsessed some of us become with true crime stories, documentaries about religious indoctrination, books about people escaping cults, or news regarding entire communities voting against their own interests. We pity the victims, pretending to be baffled by their inaction. We comb through their stories searching for something, anything. That proves we are different, that we are safe, that our troubles are so inconsequential. We distance ourselves while consuming these extraordinary events and irrational actions. We use the horror as fuel for our own sense of security and sanity. In reality, we are just recording our own troubled podcast episode, blind to how we are experiencing the exact same situation. On a different scale. Sure, maybe. Some days I would be having coffee with colleagues, curled up watching a movie with friends, chatting nonstop, even laughing, afraid that if I stopped speaking for just 1 second, my focus would crack, my thoughts would creep in through the fissures, and I would be forced to confront them. Meanwhile, various parts of my body, my diaphragm, my ribs, my eyes, and every muscle in my abdomen were tense and engaged in screaming. It simply never made it past my throat. I remember my psychiatrist once pausing mid-session to ask me, so gently it nearly broke me, "How often do you scream like this?" It was the first and only time he touched my knee or any part of me for that matter. I never provided him with an answer. I could not. The question halted the runaway train of my words just long enough for me to realize what I had just described. Instead, I sobbed violently for the rest of the session. Even now, this devastates me. It is heartbreaking to imagine how many people sit side by side at dinner tables or lecture halls, catching up over coffee or playing with their little nieces and nephews, and are silently screaming. It takes one to know one. I will try to remain vigilant and say hello. Here's the thing, I am a spreadsheet person. I go through my numbers religiously. I will be damned if I ever let myself miss a milestone. It provides me with an illusion of control, of hope for the future. Of course, I will be here in 2043. I have that goal to reach, do I not? Knowing my numbers is essential. And yet, for all those years I have been donating to Shine and Pet Refuge for victims of domestic violence. I ran a script that logged my donations into my Excel file and then automatically hid the row from view. So I would not have to see them. Would not have to think about them. What a perfect metaphor for my life. These past few weeks I have been preparing for a testimony. It has been nothing short of traumatic. It meant emotionally revisiting every moment that made me feel powerless. Collecting medical records, screenshotting messages, reaching out to friends whom I had blocked out of cowardice, providing names in the hope that it would lead to a testimony, rereading threats I once believed defined my self-worth. and condensing an indescribable stretch of experience into a single, comprehensible timeline while barely understanding how I even arrived here and who I am. Re-listening to words that once convinced me any effort would be futile, that my future was predetermined, or that I did not deserve a future, that my dog was the only reason I existed. I want to smash my phone screen, climb through it, hug my past self, hold myself, and pull myself out. But even if I had the power, she would have kicked and scratched and blocked me anyway. If I am honest, part of me still wants to slip back into that warped comfort zone of isolation that, if you squint hard enough, resembles peace. It is comparatively easy to glide on autopilot, sending the occasional weekend puppy picture for the mandatory social mask upkeep. It still feels like muscle memory to ghost people who get too close, to block friends just for voicing concern, to leave messages on read then unread for months until deleting them to prevent them from haunting me. Even a simple hi begins to feel like an unsolvable burden. Some part of me still believes strength means silence, knowing the price of invisibility is connection but exhausted from paying it. How does one simply disappear from their own life? You shrink. You check out. You make your life smaller, your impact meaningless, your output worthless. You grieve every happy moment instead of experiencing it because joy is just so ephemeral, until the idea of not showing up at all begins to feel like a kindness. A relief, maybe even a gift to others. So that feels nice. Even now, revisiting everything often leaves me feeling hollow, like I am still just a thing, not a person, no autonomy, no agency. Still trudging through the week like a placeholder until the time comes when I am replaced by something more suitable, like debris shaped into a vaguely humanoid figure. As if a complete stranger, some weak imposter, is wearing my skin but not quite passing for it. And every time my body aches or an old injury flares up, I still find myself loathing the past version of me who allowed this to happen. The temptation to shut everything down is ever present. I have been so tempted to simply block out everything, delete everything, compartmentalize. One delayed bus ride away from quitting. One spilled coffee away from completely unraveling. One burnt toast short of retracting my statements or leaving everything behind to start over in a place where no one knows my name. I am exhausted from reassuring myself that speaking out will matter. I am emotionally drained from constantly feeling undeserved empathy for a monster. Just worn out, unable to stop feeling sorry for someone else's actions. Doubting whether staying quiet means I am vindictive, if speaking out makes me cruel, if my refusal to simply move on makes me the villain in this story. But some people, plain and simple, are inhumane. I should write something on the mirror to remind myself every morning, but that cannot be healthy either. I do not know what the solution is. What do I say when they ask? We hear you. So what is your goal here? What are you hoping to achieve? What solution would you like to see from us? I do not know. I am tired. I want to rage against the injustice of it all. I am angry and disillusioned that the responsibility always falls on us to create change, to make a difference. To be credible. To be prepared. To be composed. To provide receipts, timelines, and the emotional labor. And to supply it compellingly, for heaven help us if we fail. If we do not pull it off perfectly, we will forever rot in shame and guilt for not stopping the cycle before it crushes someone else. It should never be up to the person harmed to become the archivist of their own suffering or the activist for their own justice. But it is. Again and again, it is. And the system has the audacity to demand it as if it is a reasonable cost of being believed. Unblocking my first friend last week was more challenging than I care to admit. I was just terrified I would block them again for saying, "I am so sorry, Alex, you were right. It was never your fight to fight. But thank you for being the first one to have my back, for holding my hand through the hearings, for never once saying, well, I told you so. Because of you, I might still have a chance to rebuild some of the many bridges I had almost set ablaze. Right now, though, I am beginning to feel quite proud of myself, kind of good enough to clean the carpet by myself. At some point. It is a small thing, but it matters looking down at the mess and seeing my reflection a little clearer than it has been in weeks. For the first time in what feels like forever, I do not feel guilty, but rather impressed for doing the bare minimum. Getting out of bed, showing up, walking the dog, and cooking some food, okay, maybe not that last one just yet. However, the things I used to take for granted or do automatically now feel like victories, and I will allow that. When someone says, I miss you, I no longer wonder, why? or at least not for too long, I will allow that too. Throughout this process, the more I lean into supportive spaces, the more two conflicting feelings grow within me. On one hand, there is this immense and twisted relief in finding corroboration, validation, cracks in the story, missing pieces of the timeline, and some confirmation that I am not completely insane after all. On the other hand, how can I feel grateful while experiencing the gut-level devastation at just how many of us are out here? Horrified by how many people can walk through life, side by side, hiding the exact same story, feeling isolated, gaslit into silence, and fearful for their future. Divided by a common denominator. It makes me want to reach out to shout, to create some sort of loud, chaotic noise so that we can all hear each other. I do not know how to even start, especially when I am searching for an end. I am saddened that I did not act sooner, that I allowed myself to be consumed by shame. I know it is an unfair feeling. Not every struggle is visible, and not every visible struggle is explainable. If you are carrying something, you are not alone. You deserve better, and maybe you are not in fact barely holding on. Maybe you are already standing upright. Time will tell. In the meantime, I will have a walnut and carry on. Story 2. My partner, who only just made things official, caught me lying about a guy on Snapchat. You're just letting your insecurities get in the way, I argued, not realizing how deeply I'd hurt him. Now he thinks there's more to my past and won't trust me again. How can I regain his faith? My partner and I have been officially together for just over a month, but prior to that, we had been in a talking stage, situationship, and hanging out for a year and a half. Our relationship became more serious and consistent this past May. During that time, we had no real boundaries or expectations of one another, which created many gray areas. Overall, during that time, we got along wonderfully. I enjoyed spending time with him, and throughout this situationship, I had always wanted him to be exclusively mine, but I never anticipated that we would become more than just a situation. I did everything I could to increase the time we spent together. I took up skiing so that I could ski with him. I would join him while he fished, and I listened to him talk about his interests for hours, even adopting some of them as my own. I would purchase anything he desired, and I even took him on a trip with me this past January. Nevertheless, our arrangement had its highs and lows. At times, we would discuss having a future together, while at other moments, I would not hear from him as frequently, and he would not suggest spending time together often. During the low points, I consistently asked him whether he was seeing anyone else, if he was talking to someone else, or if he did not want to be with me. His response was always no, and he mentioned that he was feeling depressed. However, during one of these phases, two of my friends sent me a photo of him on Hinge. This upset me, but when I discussed it with him, he admitted to it and said he liked the validation. I told him I was not fond of it but felt unable to stop him since we were not dating, and I cared for him too much to let him go, even if it caused me pain. In November, after I thought we had been exclusive since May, we tested positive for chlamydia, even though I had tested negative in August. I was not seeing anyone else, and he claimed he did not know how it occurred. He has a history of antibiotic resistance, so I chose to give him the benefit of the doubt. In February, we tested positive for ureaplasma, again after I had tested negative for months prior, and he once more said he did not understand how it happened. I again decided to give him the benefit of the doubt, even if my logic suggested otherwise, because my feelings for him were strong. This was especially true considering I had been continually asking him if he was involved with anyone else, which he always denied. There were also instances when I noticed other girls texting him or saw their bitmojis as suggested contacts when he attempted to send something, such as a link or photo. Throughout this, he always denied speaking with other individuals, claiming they were obsessed with him. As always, I opted to give him the benefit of the doubt because I knew my feelings for him were far stronger than I could control. Around February of this year, I realized he was distancing himself. He would go days without communicating with me and always seemed to have prior commitments when we were together. He was less responsive to my calls and texts and stopped inviting me skiing, which had been a regular activity for us previously. I could sense him pulling away, but at that point, I was unsure of how to address it. I had already asked him repeatedly if there was anyone else. Despite my intuition indicating otherwise, his answer was always no, and I believed him. Concurrently, I received a direct message from another guy on TikTok who eventually asked for my Snapchat. I provided it, and we became friends, mainly discussing skiing and joking with each other. I never perceived it as anything beyond friendship or intended to take it further. The most flirtatious exchanges involved photos I sent him in my gym attire, sports bra and sweatpants, and lightheartedly returning compliments. He invited me to a state park he was visiting in my area, and I considered the idea, although I never intended to go. I played along with his suggestions of meeting because I enjoyed the attention, even while knowing I did not plan to follow through. My then situationship noticed a notification from him on my phone and later inquired about him. Immediately, I lied about how I knew him. I am unsure why, but I think it was primarily because I found the circumstances under which we met to be embarrassing. From that moment, he began questioning me about our conversations, and I shared only the surface details. It escalated into an argument lasting over 3 days because he pressed me for the complete truth. I gradually disclosed the joking compliments and the invitation, and he saw the photos in our chat because I allowed him to look through my phone. It took several days to reveal the entire truth, but during that time, I insisted that I was being completely honest, which did not come out until the very end. I acknowledge that I should not have lied, and I have apologized repeatedly. I am not certain why I lied. Perhaps it was because I would have felt sad if he were doing the same to me, or maybe because I knew it was wrong. He wanted to end things afterward, but I did not. We continued to spend time together after that incident, during which I had lied to him about the guy on my Snapchat, and I promised him I would do anything to regain his trust. Eventually, somewhere along the way, we made our relationship official, and he became my boyfriend. We were immediately very affectionate toward one another. The main reason we started dating was due to our mutual admission of love during the argument. Shortly after we made things official, I went to babysit for the family I have been with since I was 15. The child is now 12 and views me as an older sister, which is why they continue to invite me over. He wants to see me. His parents regard me as their daughter overall. The father has made some uncomfortable advances at times and has suggested that he finds me attractive, going so far as to give me large sums of money and other small gifts. This began when I was 20, which created a peculiar dynamic with the father, but I generally believed that they considered me family. I never thought much deeper about it. At the end of the night, my boyfriend asked me when I was leaving. I did not know when they would return home, so I told him 11 p.m. At 11, he texted me asking if I had left yet. I informed him that I had not and requested him to wait about 15 more minutes. Those 15 minutes passed and I still had not left as I was engaged in conversation with the family. This repeated until midnight when I finally was able to leave, which is typical with that family. Once I departed, I could sense that my boyfriend was upset. He was not answering my calls and provided very minimal responses to my texts, just dry and basic replies. I was uncertain about what I had done wrong, other than my lack of communication regarding timing. He started expressing his discomfort with the father and his belief that the entire situation was strange. I immediately became defensive and told him I did not understand how the father posed a threat in the presence of the entire family, and I could not comprehend why he thought it was peculiar. We argued back and forth for a while, and I struggled to understand why he found it odd. Eventually, I remarked that he was allowing his insecurities to interfere with how another man viewed me, which was not the appropriate thing to say at that moment, particularly not calling him insecure. I did not intend for it to be perceived that way, but it hurt him, and I recognize that now. I also realized that he was concerned for my safety around the father, and that my involvement with the family was somewhat overwhelming. I understand his worries regarding the situation now, although I did not at that moment, and it required time for me to grasp it. We both talked about moving forward from that experience in our therapy sessions. My therapist suggested establishing boundaries, such as not staying with the family too late and enhancing communication while I am with them, in addition to working on compromise. We had a conversation on how to proceed. I shared my therapist's advice and asked if he had anything to contribute. He passively replied that he did not. I suggested he meet them to make his presence known, but he was not interested. Later, he expressed concern about my attending a planned birthday dinner for the child's birthday. The child had invited me and wanted me to be there. It was going to be the family and myself. I did not understand why he did not want me to attend and what was perceived to be wrong with the situation. I needed to work that night anyway, and out of frustration, I told him fine, I would not go since I had to work regardless. It is important to note that my boyfriend works at the same restaurant as I do. The birthday dinner arrived. The night before, his parents sent me a reminder text, and I informed them that I could not attend due to work. I proposed that they could stop by to pick up a gift I had for the child, since my restaurant is located just down the street from the party venue. I assumed they, literally having just received 5-star service from a Michelin-star restaurant, would not stay long. I anticipated a brief conversation before they left. They suggested staying for dessert, and I did not want to decline their offer as it was the child's birthday, even though my boyfriend would also be working. That evening, I had the child's gift ready before my shift. My boyfriend asked me what it was, and I told him it was for the child and that they would be stopping by for dessert. After that, he became withdrawn and silent. I expressed that I did not want him to be upset and inquired about what was wrong, and he replied that it was nothing, but remained silent all night. Later that evening, I attempted to discuss what was happening and why he was upset. He was angry with me because I extended an invitation despite him telling me he did not want to meet them, and he felt betrayed by me. I clarified that I did not invite them. In my opinion, I did not invite them to stay for dessert. In his view, since I encouraged them to stop by, it constituted an open invitation for them to linger, which he interpreted as dishonesty, a perspective I understand. While the family was at the restaurant, I concentrated on texting him as much as possible, particularly since he was supposed to pick me up. I aimed to keep him informed while simultaneously limiting my time with the family, which lasted about 30 minutes. Nonetheless, I broke his trust and crossed a boundary of his, regardless of how I perceived the situation. He believes I completely disregarded my therapist's advice and disrespected him by ignoring our previous conversation. We communicated about this situation, and I emphasized the importance of prioritizing communication, clearly expressing boundaries and working toward understanding one another. I reassured him repeatedly that I wanted to do right by him and comprehend how I could achieve that. However, because I lied in this situation, even if it was a half-truth, he views me as dishonest. He now questions anything I tell him. He suspects there is more to the Snapchat situation, no matter how often I assert that it was never sexual. He does not believe me regarding the context of a hookup I had before we resumed hanging out. He doubts that I had no intention of meeting the guy from Snapchat. He lacks trust in me and is entirely unwilling to attempt to understand. I recognize that I have made mistakes and caused him pain in this relationship. However, I consistently own my mistakes, acknowledge where I went wrong, and actively work towards improving my behavior. If he points out something as crossing a line, I cease doing it. He also has borderline personality disorder, which I have researched extensively to better understand him and his reactions and feelings. Nevertheless, I feel that neither of us has been perfect, particularly before we made our relationship official. There have been countless occasions where I have extended him the benefit of the doubt, and I do not know what, if anything, to do in order to receive the same consideration. I understand that it appears toxic and complicated, and it is. However, it is a relationship I do not wish to abandon, especially easily. I have communicated to him that I desire to enhance our communication to demonstrate my trustworthiness, and I am continually learning about myself and his reactions to understand how I can become a better partner for him. I simply do not know what steps to take in this situation. I do not want to give up, and I cannot fathom why my heart will not let go. Story 3. My husband promised he wouldn't record our FaceTime intimacy. I respect your wishes, he said. A month later, he confessed he didn't. I'm shattered. You should be flattered, he added. How can I trust a man who lies in our most vulnerable moments? My husband, aged 40, and I, aged 39, have been married for 14 years and together for 17. Last night, after an unusual night out drinking, we were in bed cuddling and chatting. He mentioned that there was something he needed to tell me. I became slightly anxious, but I believed it could not be too serious. It did not seem like the kind of moment to spoil with something dreadful. However, it was a shock. He recently went on a work trip and was away for 6 weeks. I sent him provocative photos before, but I was never comfortable with the idea of a video. I lacked confidence in myself and my body. But this time, I felt more self-assured and stepped outside my comfort zone. We engaged in sexual activity over FaceTime. Before we began, I made him promise that he would not record it. I even checked once during to make sure. He assured me convincingly that he would not. He spoke in a manner that made me trust him, indicating he respected my wishes and understood how vulnerable I felt. Returning to last night, he began by expressing how attractive he found our activity and how incredible it was for him. My heart sank. I asked him if he had recorded it. He admitted that he did, just a part of it. Then he reiterated how sexy it was, how it was the only thing he wanted to watch when he was alone. I fell silent, my body became tense. He inquired if I was angry. I could not even articulate how I felt. He repeatedly told me that he would delete it if I wanted him to. I explained that it was not merely about the video, it was the betrayal. He promised me he would not record it and then lied to my face. He understood what he was doing in that moment, yet I still wondered if he truly grasped the extent of the betrayal. I conveyed this to him. He stated that he understood and once more assured me he would delete it if I wished. I did not say much more. I simply told him I wanted to go to sleep because I did not want to think about it, I could not. Then he became defensive and stated, "This is why I don't," but did not finish the sentence. Now all I can think about is what he was going to say. What was he about to rationalize? That he finally confessed a month later. What did he expect me to feel? This morning I continued with my routine. I prepared the children for school and bid them farewell. I acted as if everything was normal. But it is not. I need to have a conversation about this. I need to express to him that I am not angry, I am deeply hurt. However, I am unsure of what kind of reaction from him wouldn't cause me more pain. Is this issue as significant as it feels to me? If he reacts defensively again, how much harm will that inflict on our relationship? We have endured a lot in nearly 20 years. Minor betrayals, disagreements, all relationships face such challenges. But this feels worse than anything else. Because now I know he is capable of looking me in the eye and lying during a moment that was vulnerable and sacred for me. How can I trust him again, not just in this particular circumstance, because it won't happen again, but in anything? He has broken something, and I do not know how to repair it or if I even wish to. Update long and emotional, still processing. Thank you all for your comments and support. I have started to make my way through them, but while I was reading, my husband called. I wanted to share what transpired while it is still fresh in my mind as much as I can recall, because emotions severely clouded my recollection of the conversation. He called while driving to his next job, and we discussed dinner plans for the evening. I mentioned that we needed to have a conversation as well. He finally offered me the apology I had been seeking, but it was not in a positive way. He stated that he was sorry for recording it, but that he thought I knew he would. I was confused. I reminded him that I specifically asked him not to, even during the act, and he replied something along the lines of, "Yes, but you said it like no, so I thought you understood I was." I reiterated that I distinctly remember him saying no sincerely. I trusted that. Then he suggested I should be flattered that he wanted to keep it. He mentioned I could profit from it. He claimed he had such a sexy wife that he would rather watch me than watch pornography. It felt like a series of pathetic excuses, as though he was just clutching at any rationale to prevent me from being upset. He continued insisting he would delete the video. I told him again that it was not about the video, it was that he lied directly to my face. He understood what he was doing, and he lied during a moment that was intimate and vulnerable for me. He apologized once more, numerous times, then he became defensive. He claimed he knew I would hold this over his head, that I always do, and that I would bring it up a month or a year from now. I tried to articulate the physical pain I felt when he revealed the truth last night and that it resurfaced during our conversation. The pressure in my chest, the sting in my fingertips, even my teeth ached. It is a sensation I have only ever experienced during profound emotional pain and not in years. He completely overlooked it. He asked, "What do you want me to say? What can I do?" I told him I did not know, that the only thing he could do was wait for me to regain trust in him. Then he took it in a direction I always feared deep down he would. He shifted the blame. He stated that I lied to him all the time. So here is where I will be honest because I want genuine feedback. I want to know if this is comparable. I am a chronic pain patient. I lost my pain management doctor a year ago when the Drug Enforcement Administration began tightening regulations on providers prescribing long-term opioids, even to patients like me with legitimate, documented needs. That doctor had me on a dosage that allowed me to live my life. Not high, just functional. When I lost him, I went months without relief, and my husband had to assume a lot of the responsibilities at home. Eventually, I found a new doctor, but they are much more conservative. I now receive slightly less than half the medication I used to. It helps, but it is not sufficient. Some days I take more than prescribed. I have never taken enough to feel euphoric or unable to function. You would not even know by looking at me. However, when I run low, the pain hits hard and I am unable to do what I could previously. The house becomes chaotic, the chores accumulate, and then he takes on the burden. He inquires about how many pills I have taken, and I have lied. I say 3, the amount I am supposed to take, or 4 when it is actually 5 or 6. I do this to avoid conflict. That is the truth. He mentioned this today, asserting that this was his reason for lying to me, to avoid an argument. I told him I did not believe it was the same. Taking an intimate, emotional moment and violating my consent while lying directly to my face felt like a much deeper betrayal. He stated he was not angry with me for feeling that way, but it seemed he was attempting to showcase his graciousness for not yelling at me, as if he were the one forgiving me now. He kept saying that we both make mistakes, that I should not hold this against him in the future. I do not know, I am honestly numb right now. I can feel my mind trying to shut this down. I have experienced trauma, I have undergone therapy, I know what dissociation feels like. This is it. It is like a blanket one that prevents me from breaking in the moment but pushes the pain down until it resurfaces later more intensely. Perhaps that is why he believes I bring up past issues, because I did not fully process them at the time. not because I wished to punish him, but because I could not manage it then. I do not know what to think anymore.